Hello and welcome to Matchday Minus Two here on LCFC TV and Facebook with me, Dan Bates. We'll be reviewing the draw with Wolves on Friday, looking ahead to Saturday's Premier League clash with Manchester City, and we'll also hear from Ryan Bennett. In my company for the next half an hour is, of course, Gerry, Taggart and Matt Elliott. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Afternoon, Dan.
How are you both?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Very
good,
well.
thanks. You?
Yeah, good, thank you. Looking forward to the game at the weekend?
Of course, yeah. Second v third. We were saying that not so long ago, weren't we? But hopefully different outcome this weekend and a better performance from Leicester City. But yeah, really exciting fixture, isn't it?
It is, and Gerry, after the Wolves game as well, which we'll go into some detail about, people, or before that game rather, people were looking at the Wolves and the Man City games coming up and maybe targeting an amount of points Leicester potentially could get from those games, because on paper they're two tough games, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Wolves away, as we've seen in the past, is not an easy place to go to. Manchester City at home, as we all know, is not an easy game for anybody when Man City rolls into town. So I think getting a 0-0 draw away at Wolves, Brendan, when he analyses the game, the aftermath of that game, will be quietly satisfied with that. And then he'll be trying to plan a way to try and beat Manchester City. I think Brendan goes into every game trying to win it. But as you've heard from him in the past, when you can't win it, you don't lose it. And he's been very, very good at that. And it may well be that scenario, raises its ugly head again on Saturday, but we'll just have to wait and see. That's
exactly what Leicester did, though, on Friday, wasn't it, Matt? There became a point in the game, particularly when Hamza Chowdhury was sent off, Leicester were down to 10 men, that getting a draw, making sure Leicester didn't lose the game, became the priority.
Yeah, I think their hopes were raised early on in the game. I was not surprised, but sort of to the extent that Wolves sat back. I mean, I know it's part of their ploy, especially against the teams in the top area of the league, but they really let Leicester come on to them, and Leicester must have got some confidence from that. Thought, here we go, we're dominating here a little bit in terms of possession, but without really breaking Wolves down. But then Wolves sort of slowly started to turn the tide a bit, didn't they, really, and turn the screw a little bit, and it became evident that it was going to be a tough game. Wolves had the better chances, set pieces were a threat. Leicester didn't really managed to open up Wolves, his back three, stroke back five, as it was the majority of the time. And all the play was in front of the Wolves' defence. And as the game went on and on, that point, all of a sudden, that they were holding on to, seemed a more enticing prospects, really. Okay, and it, as you say, that was compounded by Hamza Chowdhury being sent off. And from that moment on, it was all about holding on to what they had. And I think, all said and done, very valuable point.
Yeah, as Matt was alluding to there, Gerry, in terms of Leicester's chances, they were more half chances, weren't they, on the evening?
Yeah, absolutely. You look at this for a start, and you see Tielemans picks it up, but there's 7 Wolves players either in the box or around Gerry Tielemans. Jimmy Vardy makes a run, but he's the only player in the danger area making that run, and there's no way on this earth that Tielemans can find him, so he has to take a shot from that range. It gets slightly deflected, good save. But that was, I suppose, Wolves' key to their game in the opening first half of it. They would defend the deep, and they tried to hit Leicester on the counter-attack.
Good delivery there from Maddison, and Wolves were threatening in their own right and set pieces, but so aren't you there? Just trying to guide it far post, got it slightly wrong, didn't he? But perhaps could have tried to get a little bit more power. You tried to use the pace of the ball, but be frustrated he didn't do better. But it's Leicester in the second half, a rare foray forward, and I don't know, it typified Leicester's display a little bit there, a little bit not half-hearted, but a little bit gentle. I think that finish from Jose Perez. Ball's come across, good delivery. For me, get on it early, don't wait for it to drop and give the defenders extra time to come and close you down. Get on it early, hit it while it's in the air, and just strike it towards goal, put your laces through it maybe. He's waiting for it to drop and trying to open his foot, and it's all a bit precise and deliberate, and Wolves cleared it relatively easily, didn't they, in the end? And it was, when chances were few and far between, you really have to snatch them when they come round, and I was a little bit casual there.
I think that probably that last chance we saw, Gerry, kind of summed up the game from a Leicester point of view, didn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think, as Matt has mentioned, in the second half, Wolves sort of came out a bit more. You know, they didn't sit back as much. We seen Gerry Tielemans put an early ball into the box there, which, you know, rarely happened in the first half, if at all. But Wolves definitely came out, and you know, I'm not saying they controlled the game, but they had the better of the game in the second half. Obviously helped by Hamza being sent off, but as you say, the way the game was going, I thought it was going to be a score draw anyway. You know, but it was just two decent teams cancelling each other out and playing their style of football. Both sets of style of football were cancelled out by the opposition. It was simple as that, and I suppose you could say that typified that Ayoze Perez half-quarter chance, whatever you want to call it, typified the game.
I mean, Wolves probably did have the better of the chances, but again, both defences and Kasper Schmeichel himself had a good game.
Yeah, he did. As you say, defenders were the standout figures, weren't they? Soyuncu there just reads that, doesn't he? Gets a good toe in. It's always a problem when you're in your own penalty box and backing towards goal. But yeah, broke to Wolves, and again they were quicker onto the ball. Jota possibly could have done better, but Schmeichel doing well there, opting to go with his feet rather than his hands, and he would have struggled to get down otherwise. But yeah, he's always reliable, isn't he? Although less so in this instance. I'm not sure, they just got sort of sucked into trying to overplay there, and there wasn't much reward to be gained with that pass to Hamza Chowdhury. You know, the risk element was unnecessary, and it's something that Schmeichel does do occasionally. In his short game, he's a little bit suspect, but got away with that with a sliced miss kick. But this is a great chance. I mean, I mentioned it in the commentary. He was putting them away left, right, and centre in the warm up. I know it's a totally different scenario. But you know, whether it was with his feet or his head, particularly his head, he was so accurate, and you fancy him 9 times out of 10. Not only did he get it wrong there, sorry Joe, I'll leave
this is the big one.
Yeah,
though,
well, this is what he gets paid to do. That's a free header, another free header, in the box from a corner. Again, question marks over the mark, and you have to pinpoint that. But no one on the post. If that's on, he just needs to get it on target, and it's in the back of the net. So that's a gilt-edged opportunity that's going to miss there from Wolves by, you've got to say, the most potent striker, really. And especially, you know, 2 gilt-edged chances in the air for him.
When we're just picking up on a little point there, we're talking about Leicester City struggling a bit set-piece-wise against bigger teams, which the majority of Premier League teams are. And I think, you know, just looking at it there, the onus is on Evans and Soyuncu, isn't it? And Didi, if and when he's available. Other than that, they're just trying to upset the opposition's runs. You saw there Maddison and Dennis Pratt. They were tussling away with Jimenez, I think it was, Bowley, I don't know, Cody, was it? I'm not sure. Another. They can't be right. At the centre halves, Soyuncu and Evans maybe have got to look to release themselves a bit from that system that they're put into there, because they need to go and challenge Maddison and Bowley. You know, it's a mismatch. No one needs to know that. And they were too concentrating on tussling, not even looking at the trajectory of the ball. And Jimenez, again, 9 times out of 10, puts that in the back of the net, and it's game over.
When you do go down to 10 men, Gerry, I guess defenders need to step up as individuals, don't they? We saw Johnny Evans had a great game, and someone obviously you like very much, Kaglar Soyuncu was brilliant again, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, and they needed to be. You know, as we've seen, you know, later on, you know, he come in with a couple of, this one here is a great header. Yeah, it's a ball, it's a winnable ball, but you've got to get up and you've got to win it. And he does that fantastic well. There you see it. Fantastic clearance there from Cags. And again, this one here, I thought actually Traore maybe should have hit this first time on the volley. But, you know, he does well. He lays it back, and this is brilliant. Bang. That's Wes Morgan written all over that. We've seen that time and time again from Wes Morgan, just throwing himself at the ball. And whatever the outcome, he'll deal with it afterwards. But yeah, great block from him, and that saved the day.
Wes was there just in case anyway.
And Wes was there. He'd probably tell him, just throw yourself at it. But yeah, that when your backs are against the wall, the pressure is, you know, concentrated even more on the back 4/5. And that was the case. But thankfully, the lads were up to the task, and that's the result.
So how pleased do you think Brendan Rodgers will have been with that defence, particularly after going down to 10 men, that they were able to keep the clean sheet?
Yeah, no, I think there are different components of the team. It's not always going to be pretty, is it? You know, attractive football, and they struggle to get the game going properly in an attacking sense. Wolves did a job on them to an extent, but yeah, defensively they were solid. So I don't think you should overlook that, because you need all departments of your team working in tandem to get results, and some departments more than others on different occasions.
I think in those situations when you go down to 10 men, you need the wise heads to come to the fore, like your Johnny Evans, Kasper Schmeichel, people like that. And as we've seen, Wes come onto the pitch.
Yeah.
And it's all about going through those scenarios that happen in training, that are now happening right in front of you for real. And that's where you have to keep a calm head in a pressurised situation. And that's exactly what you've seen.
And one of the players that stepped up almost when Leicester went down to 10 men was James Maddison. Matt, he tracked a lot. He helped Ben Chilwell out, particularly when Traore was
He
looking
did.
dangerous.
I was going to say, he was one-on-one with
Excellent.
Traore a couple of times. He was having a good old battle with him on occasions. But yeah, no, he did. He did, in fairness, because he dropped in through necessity into a midfield two with Dennis Pratt, and was disciplined about his performance. But as you say, he was shuffling across, helping out his mate Ben Chilwell, and it was much needed as well, because Traore came on, posed a huge threat, and Leicester just about dealt with him by the skin of their teeth. But yeah, he showed different components to his game, James, on that occasion, didn't he? And as was necessary.
So on a whole then, Gerry, at full time, Brendan Rodgers will have looked back at that and thought, oh, that was a good point gained.
Yeah, I think so. I think, when you listen to his post-match interview, he talked about the first half. He thought they were a better team. They controlled the game. And they did do that to a certain degree, but probably some of that was because Wolves, to a certain degree, allowed them to have the ball. And they didn't, I suppose they didn't make as much of a possession as Brendan Rodgers would have liked. But the second half is totally different. As you say, Wolves came out a bit more. They're at home. They're a good side. We know that. But compounded with a sending off of Hamza Chowdhury, it's all hands to the pump. You take what you can from the game. So when you analyse all that, you think, good point. Fair point.
It must have been quite difficult for Brendan, because as you can see here, he was bringing Dennis Pratt on. A minute after that substitution is when the sending off to Hamza Chowdhury came. So that must have completely changed his idea of how he wanted to see the game out.
Yeah, it does, but you have to react on the moment, don't you? And Brendan Rodgers is as good as anyone at that. Tactical preparations before the game for different scenarios, and and reactive to it as well, and assessing the situation.
He would have known that obviously Hamza was on a yellow, and there might have been a chance that Hamza, would have been in for another rash challenge and gained a second yellow. I think that would have been running through his head.
I think it's taken into consideration more
absolutely.
These days, because you are more likely to pick up a yellow so easily, aren't you?
So he would have been aware of that situation as regards to Hamza and bringing Dennis Pratt on.
Right, still to come on Matchday Minus Two here on LCFC TV. We'll hear from new signing Ryan Bennett, and we'll also look ahead to that game with Manchester City on Saturday.
Saigon.
We are an instinct that ignites action. We are a journey, taking one step more. And we are the heart that beats as one. We are proud to be more. De Montfort University, Leicester.
Welcome back to Matchday Minus Two here on LCFC TV with me, Dan Bates, Matt, Elliott and Gerry Taggart. In the first half of the show, we look back at that draw with Wolves on Friday, so we'll hear from a man now that swapped Wolves for the Foxes. That is, of course, Ryan Bennett, who joined on loan in January, and he says he's looking forward to the game with Manchester City on Saturday.
Yeah, it'd be good. Obviously, it's another chance to go out there and get 3 points. Obviously, I can only talk from when I've been here, but training's been sharp, training's been good, you know, and it's something that we're all looking forward to, and hopefully go out there and get the win.
Have you noticed that already then in your short time here?
Yeah, I have. I mean, obviously, the first time I come in, the first few days, it was nice to see how sharp and how eager the lads are. You know, there's no big egos in that dressing room. Obviously, some big players in there, but you know, as soon as you get outside to work, it was work time, and it was nice. You know, the tempo of training, the way that the players work was surprising to me. Obviously, from coming from different backgrounds, and it was a pleasure.
And a chance for you, of course, to make your Leicester City debut at King Power Stadium.
Yeah, you know, obviously we'll see what happens on that one, but yeah, it'd be nice, you know, obviously to experience the atmosphere. I've been there sort of as the away team a few times, you know, so it'd be nice to sort of experience it from the other side.
Ryan Bennett there, speaking ahead of the game with Manchester City on Saturday. Are you interested potentially to see him make his debut at the weekend, guys?
Yeah, I think I don't envisage him starting at the weekend. Who knows what Brendan's got in mind, but you know, there's every chance that he's going to be utilised at some stage between now and the end of the season. Particularly, you know, if Brendan is looking to play three centre halves, even if it's only towards the end of the games, you know, trying to see games out. At the moment, there are three in front of him. I think it's pretty clear to say, but he can be part of the squad at least, hasn't he? And he'll be hoping to make a contribution. And I'm sure that Brendan's got every confidence in him. He wouldn't have brought him to the club otherwise. And you know, it's not like he's some novice who's come in from nowhere. He's got a fair amount of experience. I'm sure he'll do a very good job.
Well, that's the point that Matt underlines there, Gerry. He was integral in the Wolves team last season that finished so well in the Premier League. Yeah,
absolutely. And for whatever reason, he's found himself out of the Wolves team. But, you know, I think it's a bit of a shrewd signing, to be honest with you. You know, he hasn't had to go out, Brendan, and spend massive amounts on a player that may well have been a gamble. He's got a player who is, you know, well versed at coping with the Premier League. And as Matt said, you know, he's got a lot of experience for that, and a lot of experience in a good Premier League team. So it's all down to how Brendan sees him fitting in, and when he sees him fitting in, what he sees in training, whether or not what he sees in training's good enough for a start. But at the minute, you can't see him getting in front of the two lads that are there because they've been so integral to the success. So it's all about being patient, and when your time comes, be ready. Simple as that.
He knows a thing or two about beating Manchester City, though, this season. He came off the bench in the first half in the game at the Etihad that Wolves won 2-0, so potentially you'll be able to draw on that experience.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, when you mentioned that, straight away I'm thinking, flashing through my mind, what's Brendan going to be thinking at? How can we go up against Man City? How can we cause them a problem? You know, he tried one approach at the Etihad. In fairness, it didn't really work out on the day. Now, whether that was down to individual performances as much as the sort of the team system and approach, but he may well be looking at a back three at the weekend. You don't know. You know, Wolves have had relative success against Man City with a back three on occasion. Might just be an idea that Brendan's tinkering with.
That game at the Etihad earlier in the season, Gerry, what lessons do you think Leicester will have learnt from that?
That's hard to say. I think, you know, when you come up against a Man City side that are firing on all cylinders, then sometimes you have to hope for the best, to be honest with you. But I think from a forward perspective, when you see this, you see that you can get at their back four. Their back four is limited. Yes, okay, Laporte's back in play, but I think with the pace that Vardy provides, and not just Vardy, Harvey Barnes as well, thrown into the mix, then you shouldn't be afraid to stretch the game and get in behind them. Obviously, defensively, there are aspects that they will look to improve on. But as I say, when they've got so many top players in their team, probably the only issue with this is the amount of room that Mara is afforded to get a shot off before someone comes and engages with him. And Taggart Soyuncu's a little bit lucky for that ball to go through his legs and hit one of his legs on the way through, wrong foot and Schmeichel, because that would have been a routine save for Kasper otherwise. So, you know, on your day, and again, if you look at the room that Sterling has, there's probably a bit too much room in the wide areas. It's probably the one main concern. And that advantage is taken away from Man City when you play them at home, because the onus is somewhat on you. So hopefully, you know, they'll put that to rights come Saturday.
And the Leicester fans themselves, they'll remember what this game was like. They'll remember that until pretty much the City goal, Leicester looked like they were causing Man City problems, and they'll know that they can do that again at the weekend.
I beg to differ a little bit on this isolated performance. I thought Man City always had the upper hand, even when Leicester scored. Obviously, hopes were raised, weren't they? And you thought, hang on a minute, Jamie Vardy's done it again. But as Gerry mentions, that gives reason for confidence from Leicester's point of view. If you back yourself and you're brave, you can hurt them. But you have to take care of the ball, you know, and you have to be brave on the ball as well as technically gifted, because they do close you down, they pressure you, they hassle you, and that was a stark reminder at the Etihad. You know, I think people were saying, they're on the way down, Man City. That performance suggested otherwise, and they were unbelievable on the day. Leicester couldn't really keep up with them.
Go on,
mate. Go on.
No, I was going to say, when you break the game down, that game at the Etihad, and when you break it down, forget the last goal, you look at the first two goals. Okay, Leicester take the lead, Man City then come back and score two goals in quick succession. And they both come from the wide areas. So if you can resolve that issue in the wide areas at the Etihad, then you're giving yourself more of a chance to stay in the game for longer. And that's what managers do. They break the games down, analyse certain aspects, and that
was so clear, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, especially in the first half, that was the main issue that they had at the Etihad. So that's one aspect where you think, well, if I can, you know, solve that issue, we're giving ourselves a better chance of staying in the game. Forget the last goal, because, you know, the damage was done with the first two goals.
I think what Brendan Rodgers will be saying to the team, and what any manager really that faces Man City this season will be saying, is they're not the Man City that we've seen in the last couple of seasons, particularly defensively, that they can be got at.
They can, yeah, and they still have exceptional capabilities, which is why I'm referring back to that Etihad performance, and they'll be up for it as well, because they won't want Leicester City, you know, closing the gap with them as it is now. Is it 4 points, I think, as it stands after the West Ham game? So, you know, there's a lot to play for, and you know, two sets of very good players. You know, going toe to toe, you might think, but maybe Leicester be a little bit more cautious at home than they are ordinarily, because of the quality they're up against. But they must, as you say, they've got to possess that threat. They've got to, as I say, back themselves really to get the foot on the ball. Don't be rushed and hurried. You know, to have the capabilities to break through any pressure or pressing from Man City, and take the game to themselves. You know, back themselves, and it could make for, you know, a real classic, couldn't it? You know, if both teams let go.
Do you think the Champions League, Gerry, could potentially play any part in Pep Guardiola's thinking? Obviously, they're playing in the last 16, Real Madrid this week.
Potentially, you know, I think again, he's managed. He obviously breaks the league down into blocks of games, and he's seen this block of games. He's seen that he had to play, the postponed West Ham game Wednesday, Saturday, and then midweek next week. So he's well prepared for his players to be well prepared to take on that challenge of playing, you know, 3 games in 6 or 7 days, whatever it is. So I don't think it'll cause too much of an issue, basically because they're playing third place Leicester City, and that's right. Pep Guardiola will not want that gap to shorten. He will want to widen it as much as he can. So that means he will come here expecting his team to win.
So there's no chance or thought potentially that you'd say, because there's too much of a gap between first and Manchester City now, that they might put all their eggs in the Champions League basket and potentially make a few changes on Saturday?
Well, yeah, it doesn't tend to mix it up too much, does he? Really, you know, with the squad of players he's got, you'd think there would be more rotation. Really, you know, in particular, I'd like Ben Foden now. Like you say, the league's out. You know, it's out the window, isn't it? They're not going to catch Liverpool, but still against West Ham, Foden came on, I think, 88 minutes or late on in the game.
I think you mean Phil.
Phil, yeah.
Phil Foden, Ben Foden.
Did I say Ben? Did I?
He got the Amazon or something like that.
But that fella and young lad in midfield anyway. But you know, there is mini rotation, but listen, whatever team he puts out is going to be strong, isn't it?
And Brendan Rodgers,
even if Ben plays,
even if Ben or Phil Foden, yeah. And Brendan Rodgers will know that, Gerry. So what do you think he'll be telling his group this week ahead of the Man City?
Well,
game?
I think when you look back, when Liverpool rolled into town, and Leicester tried to have a go at them and came off the back, and it was a close game, but in the end they were well beaten, Leicester. And I'm pretty sure he won't want a repeat of the Liverpool game at home. And so Man City are probably the only other team in the league that have the potential of, you know, pulling out one of those 4-0 results. We haven't seen it here this season. So that'll be a massive thing, I would say, on his mind, Brendan. Make sure we don't have a repeat result of Liverpool. But, as Matt said again, you have to go out with the intention of trying to beat Man City. You have to give it your best shot. You have to try and close the gap. Places are massive. The amount of money that's involved between each place nowadays. So there's always something riding on a game. You know, well, the cushion between Leicester and fifth place is, you know, in double figures as far as the points are concerned, is immaterial. It's all about the momentum of Leicester City. And so Brendan has to go out with a plan to try and beat them. What that is, the Lord only knows.
I just thought Leicester played a little bit within themselves in both those games. They were sort of a little bit wary, a little bit cautious of the opposition. And I don't know, that's a huge invitation to teams of that quality. I think you need to surprise them, shock them a little bit and show them what you've got a little bit more than they did.
Okay, well,
and they're the sort of game, that he'll analyse, go back on and say, right, well, we can't come out and play like that against these. Or this is what we've done against Liverpool, we can't do that against these.
Well, hopefully we'll see an improvement from that Liverpool game on Saturday. As ever, you can listen to it all on LCFC Radio. Our coverage on Saturday starts at 2:30. Then we'll assess that game on extra time on Monday evening. And following that, the under-23s are in action. That's 6:45 on LCFC TV. You can watch that one for free, right? You know the score by now, don't you? Prediction time.
2-1 Leicester, come on.
3-2 Leicester City.
3-2 Leicester.
I think
So
it's going to
fingers
be a
crossed
humdinger.
that you're both right, and then it'll be another win for Leicester. And as we said, you can hear it all on LCFC Radio on Saturday. Do make sure you tune in, but that's all we've got time for here on Matchday Minus Two. Thank you very much for watching.